Absolutely.
Good, because I clicked on it as I was saying that. I'm like, you ready to go live? Live.
Like, no, we must discuss personal things. Like I've ever had a problem with that.
I mean, sure. My pillow has a weird spot where the fluff is not anymore. Hang on. There we go. Terribly sorry about my laundry. I was planning to sit so that I was in front of that. And I was like, I definitely won't move and show the entire world my stack of laundry that I haven't folded. It's fine.
At least it's clean.
That is true. It is clean. My hair is doing a thing. There.
Hello,
all right.
humans.
What human? Did we
We've
have
gotten people asking how. No, but we will.
Mm-hmm.
Someday. I've had friends ask, how's it going? And I'm like, why did you watch?
and
then
has that worked?
Not so far.
Well, we only do what we can. All right.
If I'm drawing, I'm going to see if this janky setup of mine is going to work.
Cool. I'm going to try and find where we were last week. Last week? 2 days ago.
Okay.
Whatever. Last time.
Hang on. Last time.
All right.
I'm going to go into tab mode.
Gollum's sharp ears would soon learn what he wanted. He went to Dale and found out about Bilbo. Is that where we're at? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because then we're going into like how Gandalf found him. And I don't think we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Cool.
We did not talk about, you keep saying last week.
So yesterday was about a week long for me. That's why we did not podcast.
Fair enough. I had such high hopes for this.
Right.
I've got a tube that I thought I could prop things up on.
I hate it when a propping tube doesn't work.
My prop and tube. Come on, prop and tube. You know what? You just go ahead and read.
Okay, well, you mute yourself.
My propping tube needs like. Okay, I will mute.
I didn't hear any of that. I was also on mute because I was coughing on account of having a crumb in my throat. But anyway, I was going to say mute yourself because you sound like you're in a high wind when you move the tablet around. Side note, can we talk about conference call etiquette for a second? Like, I realize this isn't a thing that's of great concern to you, but speaking as a person who's been spending a lot of time on conference calls in the last week, if you're not talking on a conference call, just mute yourself. Don't fucking do a Darth Vader into the headset. I don't want to hear you like... Just mute yourself. Anyways, this has been a PSA. Thank you.
Jason always mutes himself on all of his conference calls, so it can be done.
It can be done. I do it too. Like, it's not rocket surgery. There's a mute button. It's right here. See? Not this one. That one picks up the call. This one. Okay. That gesture was not at you. That gesture was at the people who don't mute themselves. Let's see. Gollum's sharp ears would soon learn what he wanted. Then why didn't he track Bilbo further? Asked Frodo. Why didn't he come to the Shire? Ah, said Gandalf. Now we come to it. I think Gollum tried to. He set out and came back westward as far as the great river. But then he turned aside. He was not daunted by the distance, I am sure. No, something else drew him away. So my friends think, those that hunted him for me. The wood elves tracked him first, an easy task for them, for his trail was still fresh then. Through Mirkwood and back again it led them, though they never caught him. The wood was full of the rumor of him, dreadful tales, even among beasts and birds. The woodmen said that there was some new terror abroad, a ghost that drank blood. It climbed trees to find nests. It crept into holes to find the young. It slipped through windows to find cradles. But at the western edge of Mirkwood, the trail turned away.
Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
That has always upset me. Gollum eats babies?
Gollum eats
Gollum
babies.
eats babies.
That is canon.
Gollum eats babies. Ew.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah. No, he's awful. Like we do not stand. Yeah, this line really actually haunts me too. Like I was waiting for us to get to it because I knew it was coming, and I thought it happened in Dale, and then I was like, it didn't happen, and then yeah. Anyways, do not like. But at the western edge of Mirkwood, the trail turned away. It wandered off southwards and passed out of the Wood Elves' ken and was lost. And then I made a great mistake. Yes, Frodo, and not the first. No shit. That's what I say every time I make a mistake. Oh, this isn't the first one I've made. Surprise.
Gosh. I had a question. If I wanted to post on Facebook, hey, come listen to us now, where are we?
There's a link on my Facebook. So
all right, I will go post your link.
Yes, go find and tell people.
Tell
the people.
StreamYard?
No, we're on YouTube. StreamYard streams straight to YouTube. So it's literally the YouTube link that I posted like at 6:57.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay. Where was I? And then I made a great mistake. Yes, Frodo, and not the first, though I fear it may prove the worst. I let the matter be. I let him go, for I had much else to think of at that time, and I still trusted the lore of Saruman. Well, that was years ago. I have paid for it since with many dark and dangerous days. The trail was long cold when I took it up again after Bilbo left here, and my search would have been in vain but for the help that I had from a friend, Aragorn, the greatest traveler and huntsman of this age of the world. I realize I sort of made Gandalf sound like he's a little bit thirsty for Aragorn there, but I stand by it. Together we sought for Gollum down the whole length of...
Thirsty for Aragorn. It's only fitting that Gandalf gets to be too.
Wait, what now?
So many of us are.
It's true. At least 20% thirst for Aragorn across the board.
Yep. Yeah.
So it goes. Okay, let's see. Together we sought for Gollum down the whole length of Wilderland, without hope and without success. But at last, when I had given up the chase and turned to other parts, Gollum was found. My friend returned out of the great perils, bringing the miserable creature with him. What he had been doing he would not say. He only wept and called us cruel, with many a gulp in his throat. And when we pressed him, he whined and cringed, and rubbed his long hands, licking his fingers as if they pained him, as if he remembered some old torture, which also upsets me and haunts me.
What did they do to his fingers?
I really would prefer not to think about it any further. I'm just saying it upsets me.
It's just really upsetting, yeah.
But I am afraid there is no possible doubt. He had made his slow, sneaking way, step by step, mile by mile, man by man.
Damn it, I can't be muted for this shit.
Well, then you gotta pick a spot for your tablet and leave it there.
I'm trying. Now I want to write my and leave a hair for Middle Earth. You have to understand the way I am, my precious.
Hey God, I almost have something. Nope, I'll come back to it. Tell you what, leave yourself unmuted, but just leave your tablet in one spot.
I can do that.
Well, let's try that. Okay.
Okay, you can hear me?
I can hear you. A heavy silence fell in the room. Frodo could hear his heart beating. Even outside, everything seemed still. No sound of Sam's shears could now be heard.
No more.
Nope.
Nope.
Yes, to Mordor, said Gandalf. Alas, Mordor draws all wicked things, and the dark power was bending all its will to gather them there. The ring of the enemy would leave its mark, too, leave him open to the summons. And all folk were whispering then of the new shadow in the south and its hatred of the west. There were his fine new friends who would help him in his revenge. Wretched fool! In that land he would learn much, too much for his comfort. And sooner or later, as he lurked and pried on the borders, he would be caught and taken for examination. That was the way of it, I fear. When he was found, he had already been there long and was on his way back, on some errand of mischief. But that does not matter much now. His worst mischief was done. Yes, alas, through him the enemy has learned that the One has been found again. He knows where Isildur fell. He knows where Gollum found his ring. He knows that it is a great ring, for it gave long life. He knows that it is not one of the three, for they have never been lost, and they endure no evil. He knows that it is not one of the 7, or the 9, for they are accounted for. He knows that it is the One.
Why are they all in odd numbers?
I don't know.
Satisfying or what?
I guess. I mean, I find odd numbers more satisfying than even numbers. I'm the person who deliberately got 2 piercings in one ear and one in the other because I was like, I just want to be asymmetrical.
Right? Except when it comes to volume. When you can see the numbers on the volume, when you're changing it on the television, if it's not an even number, I get very twitchy.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to remember that. I will only use this power for good. And he knows that it is the One. And he has at last heard, I think, of hobbits and the Shire.
Damn.
The Shire. He may be seeking for it now, if he has not already found out where it lies. Indeed, Frodo, I fear that he may even think that the long unnoticed name of Baggins has become important. But this is terrible, cried Frodo. Far worse than the worst that I imagined from your hints and warnings. Ooh, that's a little topical.
Yeah.
Oh, Gandalf, best of friends, what am I to do? For now I am really afraid. What am I to do? What a pity that Bilbo did not stab that vile creature when he had the chance. Pity? It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy not to strike without need. And he has been well rewarded, Frodo. Be sure that he took so little hurt from the evil and escaped in the end, because he began his ownership of the ring so, with pity. I am sorry, said Frodo, but I am frightened, and I do not feel any pity for Gollum. You have not seen him, Gandalf broke in. No, and I don't want to, said Frodo. I can't understand you. Do you mean to say that you and the elves have let him live on after all those horrible deeds? Now, at any rate, he is as bad as an orc and just an enemy. He deserves death. Deserves it? I dare say he does. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them?
My favorite line. I know I say that a lot, but it's...
Also very topical.
Yeah.
Then do not be so eager to deal out death in judgment, for even the very wise cannot see all ends. I have not much hope that Gollum can be cured before he dies, but there is a chance of it, and he is bound up with the fate of the ring. My heart tells me that he has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before the end, and when that comes, the pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many, yours not least. Mic drop.
Right.
In any case, we did not kill him. He is very old and very wretched. The wood elves have him in prison, but they treat him with such kindness as they can find in their wise hearts. All the same, said Frodo, even if Bilbo could not kill Gollum, I wish he had not kept the ring. I wish he had never found it, and that I had not got it. Why did you let me keep it? Why didn't you make me throw it away or destroy it? Let you? Make you? Said the wizard. Haven't you been listening to all that I have said? You are not thinking of what you are saying. But as for throwing it away, that was obviously wrong. These rings have a way of being found. In evil hands, it might have done great evil. Worst of all, it might have fallen into the hands of the enemy. Indeed, it certainly would, for this is the one, and he is exerting all his power to find it or draw it to himself. Of course, my dear Frodo, it was dangerous for you, and that has troubled me deeply. But there was so much at stake that I had to take some risk. You might have died, but that was a risk I was willing to take. That's not what he actually says. Though even when I was far away, there has never been a day when the Shire has not been guarded by watchful eyes. As long as you never used it, I did not think that the ring would have any lasting effect on you. Not for evil, not at any rate for a very long time. And you must remember that 9 years ago, when I last saw you, I still knew little for certain. But why not destroy it, as you say should have been done long ago? Cried Frodo again. If you had warned me, or even sent me a message, I would have done away with it. Would you? How would you do that? Have you ever tried? No, but I suppose one could hammer it or melt it. Try, said Gandalf. Try now. Try it, bitch.
Right? Such a useless dare, because it's like he could just say it won't work. It's not breakable. But he's like,
He could.
Try first. Let's see if you can even have the balls.
You know, people really are the most convinced by things that they find out themselves, though. Like, there is an argument for that. There's a limited usefulness to telling people things and a much greater usefulness to being like, yeah, try that, see how it works for you. Oh, it didn't work? Oh, no. Well, what else might we do?
Oh, shit.
I'm so sorry to hear that it didn't work. Like I knew it wouldn't.
Later, shit. In one of the books, pretty sure it's Two Towers, Gandalf says the burnt hand teaches best. Like, after that, advice about fire goes to the heart. It's like, you butthead, you're so right, but what a butthead.
Oh, man. I forget what stand-up comedian it is that used to say, like, yeah, my dad didn't tell us not to do things. He just waited until we did them and then went, learned something, didn't you? Okay. Let's see. Frodo drew the ring out of his pocket again and looked at it. It now appeared plain and smooth, without mark or device that he could see. The gold looked very fair and pure, and Frodo thought how rich and beautiful was its color, how perfect was its roundness. It was an admirable thing, and altogether precious.
So round, so firm, so fully packed.
What is that from?
I don't know, but Looney Tunes used to quote it.
Oh my.
But by the
Looney Tunes.
Like, I don't know what their source material was.
Hard to say. All right, let's see. When he took it out, he had intended to fling it from him into the very hottest part of the fire. But he found now that he could not do so, not without a great struggle. He weighed the ring in his hand, hesitating and forcing himself to remember all that Gandalf had told him. And then with an effort of will he made a movement, as if to cast it away. But he found that he had put it back in his pocket. Gandalf laughed grimly. You see? Already you too, Frodo, cannot easily let it go, nor will to damage it. And I could not make you, except by force, which would break your mind. But as for breaking the ring, force is useless. Even if you took it and struck it with a heavy sledgehammer, it would make no dint in it. It cannot be unmade by your hands or by mine. Your small fire, of course, would not melt even ordinary gold. This ring has already passed through it unscathed and even unheated. But there is no smith's forge in this shire that could change it at all. Not even the anvils and furnaces of the dwarves could do that. It has been said that dragon fire could melt and consume the rings of power, but there is not now any dragon left on earth in which the old fire is hot enough. Nor was there ever any dragon, not even Ancalagon the Black, who could have harmed the one ring, the ruling ring, for that was made by Sauron himself.
Do you know what I know about Ancalagon the Black?
I do not.
He was in Morgoth's army when so Morgoth sort of kind of ran the world for a long time until the elves and the humans could find an emissary who could represent both of them, and that was Earendil. And they sent him to the land of the gods and said, so that he could say, please, on behalf of all of us, fucking do something about this douchebag. And they were like, okay, fine. So they took Earendil and a Silmaril and put the Silmaril in a crown on him and put him in a boat in the sky. And then they descended on Middle-earth, on Angmar, which was the stronghold of Morgoth. And there was this massive battle. All the men that were there, all the elves that were there, Earendil showed up with his boat in the sky and had combat with Ancalagon the Black, because he was like the air support of the bad guys. So like the humans and elves are like, we're dying, and then the Earendil comes in a flying fucking ship to be like, no, you're not, ha ha ha. And yeah, it was pretty massive, and I really want to paint it.
Well, maybe when you're done with the hawk, that could be the next project.
No, it's too big. It would have to be that huge canvas.
I mean,
all of the stuff, all of the things. And also, that's not really my style, but I want to see it, because he writes as if for illustrators, and this is one of those things that I would love to paint. Anyway, so yeah, he can't burn it either.
Indeed, and I will be right back.
No! Where are you going? Do you need me to read? I can read.
No, I'm good. I just needed to put on chapstick and felt weird about doing it on camera.
Yeah, we're not an ASMR type show, are we?
Not so much.
Not so much.
Although I don't really understand ASMR, but anyways. Not even Ancalagon the Black, who could have harmed the One Ring, the ruling ring, for that was made by Sauron himself. There is only one way, to find the cracks of doom in the depths of Orodruin, the Fire Mountain, and cast the ring in there if you really wish to destroy it, to put it beyond the grasp of the enemy forever. I do really wish to destroy it, cried Frodo. Or, well, to have it destroyed. I am not made for perilous quests. Famous last words.
Right?
I wish I had never seen the ring. Why did it come to me? Why was I chosen?
Because you're whiny.
Such questions cannot be answered, said Gandalf. You may be sure that it was not for any merit that others do not possess. Not for power or wisdom at any rate. What the hell did what?
Is it because I'm special? No, honey.
What kind of thing is that to say? Like, well, you certainly weren't chosen for being any better than anyone else, and definitely not for being powerful or wise, because you're kind of dumb and tiny.
Not for your power, your wisdom, your looks, your charm, your ability to cook. Definitely wasn't any of those.
Jesus. Welp. That now he's been told, I guess.
We all need a Gandalf. Keep us humble.
I do not. I feel that I am my own Gandalf.
Every time you think you've got something special going on, your brain's like, nah.
Nope. Exactly. Let's see.
But why, brain? What's going on? Shut up.
But you have been chosen, and you must therefore use such strength and heart and wits as you have.
God help us all.
Fuck's sake. But I have so little of any of these things. You are wise and powerful. Will you not take the ring? No. Sorry. No! Cried Gandalf, springing to his feet. The first time I said it a little casually. Nah, thanks. Only Faramir is that casual about the ring. With that power, I should have a power too great and terrible. And over me, the ring would gain a power still greater and more deadly. His eyes flashed, and his face was lit as by a fire within. Do not tempt me, for I do not wish to become like the Dark Lord himself. Yet the way of the ring to my heart is by pity for weakness, and the desire of strength to do good. Do not tempt me. I dare not take it, not even to keep it safe unused. The wish to wield it would be too great for my strength. I shall have such need of it. Great perils lie before me. He went to the window and drew aside the curtains and the shutters. Sunlight streamed back again into the room. Sam passed along the path outside, whistling. And now, said the wizard, turning back to Frodo, the decision lies with you, but I will always help you. He laid his hand on Frodo's shoulder. I will help you bear this burden as long as it is yours to bear. But we must do something soon. The enemy is moving. There was a long silence. Gandalf sat down again and puffed at his pipe as if lost in thought. His eyes seemed closed, but under the lids he was watching Frodo intently. Frodo gazed fixedly at the red embers on the hearth, until they filled all his vision and he seemed to be looking down into profound wells of fire. He was thinking of the fabled cracks of doom and the terror of the fiery mountain. Well, said Gandalf at last, what are you thinking about? Have you decided what to do? No, answered Frodo, coming back to himself out of darkness and finding to his surprise that it was not dark, and that out of the window he could see the sunlit garden. Or perhaps, yes. As far as I understand what you have said, I suppose I must keep the ring and guard it, at least for the present, whatever it may do to me. Whatever it may do, it will be slow to evil if you keep it with that purpose, said Gandalf. I hope so, said Frodo, but I hope that you may find some other better keeper soon. But in the meanwhile, it seems that I am a danger to all that live near me. I cannot keep the ring and stay here. I ought to leave Bag End, leave the Shire, leave everything, and go away. He sighed. I should like to save the Shire if I could, though there have been times when I thought the inhabitants too stupid and dull for words, and have thought that an earthquake or an invasion of dragons might be good for them. But I don't feel like that now. I feel that as long as the Shire lies behind, safe and comfortable, I shall find wandering more bearable. I shall know that somewhere there is a firm foothold, even if my feet cannot stand there again. Of course, I have sometimes thought of going away, but I imagine that as a kind of holiday, a series of adventures like Bilbo's or better, ending in peace. But this would mean exile, a flight from danger into danger, drawing it after me. And I suppose I must go alone if I am to do that and save the Shire. But I feel very small, very uprooted, and, well, desperate. The enemy is so strong and terrible. He did not tell Gandalf, but as he was speaking, a great desire to follow Bilbo flamed up in his heart. To follow Bilbo, and even perhaps to find him again. It was so strong that it overcame his fear. He could almost have run out there and then down the road without his hat, as Bilbo had done on a similar morning long ago. My dear Frodo, exclaimed Gandalf, hobbits really are amazing creatures, as I have said before. You can learn all that there is to know about their ways in a month, and yet after 100 years they can still surprise you at a pinch. I hardly expected to get such an answer, not even from you. But Bilbo made no mistake in choosing his heir, though he little thought how important it would prove. I am afraid you are right. The ring will not be able to stay hidden in the Shire much longer, and for your own sake as well as others, you will have to go and leave the name of Baggins behind you. That name will not be safe to have outside the Shire or in the wild. I will give you a traveling name now. When you go as Mr. Underhill.
And then he takes a bottle of wine and smashes it across. I christen you.
But I don't think you need go alone. Not if you know of anyone you can trust and who would be willing to go by your side. and that you would be willing to take into unknown perils. Do you have a boyfriend? But if you look for a companion, be careful in choosing, and be careful of what you say, even to your closest friends. The enemy has many spies and many ways of hearing. Suddenly he stopped, as if listening. Frodo became aware that all was very quiet, inside and outside. Gandalf crept to one side of the window. Then with a dart he sprang to the sill and thrust a long arm out and downwards. There was a squawk, and up came Sam Gamgee's curly head, hauled by one ear. "Well, well, bless my beard," said Gandalf. "Sam Gamgee, is it? Now what may you be doing?" "Lord bless you, Mr. Gandalf, sir," said Sam. "Nothing. Leastways, I was just trimming the grass border under the window, if you follow me." He picked up his shears and exhibited them as evidence. "I don't," said Gandalf grimly. "It is some time since I last heard the sound of your shears. How long have you been eavesdropping?" "Eavesdropping, sir? I don't follow you, begging your pardon. There ain't no eaves at Bag End, and that's a fact." "Don't be a fool. What have you heard, and why did you listen?" Gandalf's eyes flashed, and his brows stuck out like bristles. "Mr. Frodo, sir," cried Sam, quaking. "Don't let him hurt me, sir. Don't let him turn me into anything unnatural. My old dad would take on so. I meant no harm, on my honor, sir." "He won't hurt you," said Frodo, hardly able to keep from laughing, although he was himself startled and rather puzzled. "He knows as well as I do that you mean no harm. But just you up and answer his questions straight away." "Well, sir," said Sam, dithering a little, "I heard a deal that I didn't rightly understand about an enemy and rings and Mr. Bilbo, sir, and dragons and a fiery mountain and elves, sir. I listened because I couldn't help myself, if you know what I mean. Lord bless me, sir, but I do love tales of that sort. And I believe them, too, whatever Ted may say. Elves, sir. I would dearly love to see them. Couldn't you take me to see elves, sir, when you go?" Suddenly Gandalf laughed. "Come inside," he shouted, and putting out both his arms, he lifted the astonished Sam, shears, grass clippings, and all, right through the window and stood him on the floor. "Take you to see elves, eh?" he said, eyeing Sam closely, but with a smile flickering on his face. "So you heard that Mr. Frodo is going away?" "I did, sir, and that's why I choked, which you heard seemingly. I tried not to, sir, but it burst out of me. I was so upset." "It can't be helped, Sam," said Frodo sadly. He had suddenly realized that flying from the Shire would mean more painful partings than merely saying farewell to the familiar comforts of Bag End. "I shall have to go. But," and here he looked hard at Sam, "if you really care about me, you will keep that dead secret. See? If you don't, if you even breathe a word of what you've heard here, then I hope Gandalf will turn you into a spotted toad and fill a garden full of grass snakes." Sam fell on his knees, trembling. "Get up, Sam," said Gandalf. "I have thought of something better than that. Something to shut your mouth and punish you properly for listening. You shall go away with Mr. Frodo." "Me, sir!" cried Sam, springing up like a dog invited for a walk. "Me go and see elves and all! Hooray!" he shouted, and then burst into tears. That is the end of chapter 2.
Yay! Sam is awesome. Although he's kind of hiding that at the moment,
Well, we just don't know him very well yet.
right? He doesn't know himself very well yet.
Well, comes to us all.
How are we sitting? It's only 7:35.
Yep, we're like 34 minutes in. I'm just going to grab some water.
Do you want me to take a turn at the reading?
No, you're good. You can keep drawing. You read for the whole time the day before yesterday. See, I didn't say last week this time, huh?
You did it this time. Any advance on the Avengery?
No, I haven't really had a chance to think about it.
The Avengership.
Thus far, it is just Steve is Aragorn, Bucky is Arwen, Tony is Gandalf, Natasha is Gimli, and Clint is Legolas. We still have not figured out what to do with Bruce or Thor or Loki or any of the others.
Right?
I feel like Carol is Elrond in the sense that she really has this like power to sort everything out in about 5 seconds, but just only shows up for 5 seconds.
Right? Like, nope, got my own shit to deal with over here. Thank you.
Right.
Y'all have to figure it out. And we don't know which Avengers would be Merry and Pippin, even though that should be the most obvious. But everybody wisecracks in the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's not like a single.
I'm tempted to say Rhodey and Nebula, honestly.
Oh, I don't know about Nebula.
No, probably not. I just was thinking about people who actually like have an effective team relationship.
Nebula is more of a sort of Theoden. Like, I'm definitely corrupted when you find me. I totally am given over to the dark side of whatever the Marvel universe calls the Force. But then you subject me to some like sanity, and I snap out of it.
Perhaps. Needs more thought.
Needs so much more thought. An essay.
All right. Chapter 3. Three's Company. Three's Company too. You ought to go quietly, and you ought to go soon, said Gandalf. 2 or 3 weeks had passed, and still Frodo had made no sign of getting ready to go.
I love the sense of impending doom. 2 or 3 weeks. Every day you're like, oh, I would, but I've got to feed the dog. Like, what the fuck?
Again, very topical.
So much urgency.
Mm-hmm. I know, but it is difficult to do both, Frodo objected. If I just vanish like Bilbo, the tale will be all over the Shire in no time. Of course you mustn't vanish, said Gandalf. That wouldn't do at all. I said soon, not instantly. If you can think of any way of slipping out of the Shire without its being generally known, it will be worth a little delay. But you must not delay too long. What about the autumn, on or after our birthday? Asked Frodo. I think I could probably make some arrangements by then.
That's big of you.
I feel like it's like when you're signing up for something and you're like, oh yeah, future me will be fine with, baking 47 cupcakes in 2 hours for your class bake sale. But see, I'm sure future me won't have a problem at all. And then it's like, actually, I hate this.
I hate this.
And past me is a bitch.
Yeah. You want to be running for your lives with seconds to spare rather than actually like be snug at Rivendell? Fine. Do it.
1 second. Having my laundry in the background is really bothering me. I'm just going to move it. I know everyone's already seen it. That's not why. It just bothers me.
Fair enough. I messed this up royally. I'm going to have to go in digitally and do some white out.
Can't get rid of it. There. I feel better now.
Good. Yay.
Yay. Let's see. To tell the truth, he was very reluctant to start now that it had come to the point. Bag End seemed a more desirable residence than it had for years, and he wanted to savor as much as he could of his last summer in the Shire. When autumn came, he knew that part at least of his heart would think more kindly of journeying, as it always did at that season. He had indeed privately made up his mind to leave on his 50th birthday, Bilbo's 128th. It seemed somehow the proper day on which to set out and follow him. Following Bilbo was uppermost in his mind, and the one thing that made the thought of leaving bearable. He thought as little as possible about the ring and where it might lead him in the end, but he did not tell all his thoughts to Gandalf. What the wizard guessed was always difficult to tell. He looked at Frodo and smiled. "Very well," he said. "I think that will do, but it must not be any later. I am getting very anxious. In the meanwhile, do take care and don't let out any hint of where you are going, and see that Sam Gamgee does not talk. If he does, I really shall turn him into a toad." "As for where I am going," said Frodo, "it would be difficult to give that away, for I have no clear idea myself yet." "Don't be absurd," said Gandalf. "I'm not warning you against leaving an address at the post office, but you are leaving the Shire, and that should not be known until you are far away. And you must go, or at least set out, either north, south, east, or west, and the direction should certainly not be known." "I have been so taken up with the thoughts of leaving Bag End and of saying farewell that I've never even considered the direction," said Frodo. "A liar, a liar."
Right? Well, he doesn't know where Bilbo's gone, does he?
"I guess not. That's true.
He can't really assume.
For where am I to go, and by what shall I steer? What is to be my quest? Bilbo went to find a treasure there and back again, but I go to lose one and not return as far as I can see." "But you cannot see very far," said Gandalf. "Neither can I. It may be your task to find the cracks of doom, but that quest may be for others. I do not know. At any rate, you are not ready for that long road yet." "No, indeed," said Frodo. "But in the meantime, what course am I to take?" "Towards danger, but not too rashly nor too straight," answered the wizard. "Words to live by."
Words to live by.
"If you want my advice, make for Rivendell. That journey should not prove too perilous, though the road is less easy than it was, and it will grow worse as the year fails." "Rivendell," said Frodo. "Very good. I will go east, and I will make for Rivendell. I will take Sam to visit the elves. He will be delighted." He spoke lightly, but his heart was moved suddenly with a desire to see the house of Elrond Half-Elven, and breathe the air of that deep valley where many of the fair folk still dwelt in peace. One summer's evening, an astonishing piece of news reached the Ivy Bush and Green Dragon. Giants and other portents on the borders of the Shire were forgotten for more important matters. Mr. Frodo was selling Bag End, and indeed, he had already sold it to the Sackville Bagginses.
Why did he do that? What do you think there was nobody else willing to buy Bag End?
Maybe? I don't know.
Bilbo done a deal with them decades ago? Like, if I ever sell, you'll be the first to know. Like, what the hell? Because otherwise, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, he's kind of like the squire of the neighborhood, though. I wonder if it's purely like they were the only ones who could afford it.
Right? Or they were the only ones who were related. You can't have it going out of the family.
That's true, even if you have to put up with Sackville Bagginses. Let's see. "For a nice bit, too," said some. "At a bargain price," said others, "and that's more likely when Mistress Lobelia's the buyer." Otho had died some years before, at the ripe but disappointed age of 102. Just why Mr. Frodo was selling his beautiful hole was even more debatable than the price. I'm sorry. I was not prepared for that sentence. What did you say?
When you need the money. Beautiful hole is the only thing you got.
Let's see. A few held the theory, supported by the nods and hints of Mr. Baggins himself, that Frodo's money was running out. He was going to leave Hobbiton and live in a quiet way on the proceeds of the sale down in Buckland among his Brandybuck relations. "As far from the Sackville Bagginses as may be," some added. But so firmly fixed had the notion of the immeasurable wealth of the Bagginses of Bag End become, that most found this hard to believe, harder than any other reason or unreason that their fancy could suggest. To most, it suggested a dark and yet unrevealed plot by Gandalf. Though he kept himself very quiet and did not go about by day, it was well known that he was hiding up in Bag End. But however removal might fit in with the designs of his wizardry, there was no doubt about the fact. Frodo Baggins was going back to Buckland. "Yes, I shall be moving this autumn," he said. Mary Brandybuck is looking out for a nice little hole for me, or perhaps a small house. As a matter of fact, with Mary's help, he had already chosen and bought a little house at Crick Hollow in the country beyond Bucklebury. To all but Sam, he pretended he was going to settle down there permanently. The decision to set out eastwards had suggested the idea to him, for Buckland was on the eastern borders of the Shire, and as he had lived there in childhood, his going back would at least seem credible. Gandalf stayed in the Shire for over 2 months. Then one evening at the end of June, soon after Frodo's plan had been finally arranged, he suddenly announced that he was going off again next morning. "Only for a short while, I hope," he said, "but I am going down beyond the southern borders to get some news if I can. I have been idle longer than I should." He spoke lightly, but it seemed to Frodo that he looked rather worried. "Has anything happened?" he asked. "Well, no, but I have heard something that has made me anxious and needs looking into. If I think it necessary, after all, for you to get off at once." "Ahem. I shall come back immediately, or at least send word. In the meantime, stick to your plan, but be more careful than ever, especially of the ring. Let me impress upon you once more, don't use it." He went off at dawn. "I may be back any day," he said. At the very latest, I shall come back for the farewell party. I think, after all, you may need my company on the road." At first, Frodo was a good deal disturbed, and wondered often what Gandalf could have heard. But his uneasiness wore off, and in the fine weather he forgot his troubles for a while. The Shire had seldom seen so fair a summer or so rich an autumn. The trees were laden with apples, honey was dripping in the combs, and the corn was tall and full. Autumn was well under way before Frodo began to worry about Gandalf again. September was passing, and there was still no news of him. The birthday and the removal drew nearer, and still he did not come or send word. Bag End began to be busy. Some of Frodo's friends came to stay and help him with the packing. There was Fredegar Bolger and Folko Buffin, and of course his special friends Pippin Took and Mary Brandybuck. Between them, they turned the whole place upside down. On September 20th, 2 covered carts went off, laden to Buckland, conveying the furniture and goods that Frodo had not sold to his new home. Conveying the furniture and goods that Frodo had not sold to his new home, by way of the Brandywine Bridge. That sentence is poorly punctuated.
Yes.
God damn it, Tolkien.
Correctly, but confusedly.
Yes. The next day, Frodo became really anxious and kept a constant lookout for Gandalf. Thursday, his birthday morning, dawned as fair and clear as it had long ago for Bilbo's birthday party. Still, Gandalf did not appear. In the evening, Frodo gave his farewell feast. It was quite small, just a dinner for himself and his 4 helpers. But he was troubled and felt in no mood for it. The thought that he would so soon have to part with his young friends weighed on his heart. He wondered how he would break it to them. The 4 younger hobbits were, however, in high spirits, and the party soon became very cheerful in spite of Gandalf's absence. The dining room was bare except for a table and chairs, but the food was good, and there was good wine. Frodo's wine had not been included in the sale to the Sackville Bagginses. "Whatever happens to the rest of my stuff when the SBs get their claws on it, at any rate I have found a good home for this," said Frodo as he drained his glass. It was the last drop of Old Wynyards.
Haha. Salty.
When they had sung many songs and talked of many things they had done together, they toasted Bilbo's birthday, and they drank his health and Frodo's together, according to Frodo's custom. Then they went out for a sniff of air and glimpse of the stars, and then they went to bed. Frodo's party was over, and Gandalf had not come. The next morning they were busy packing another cart with the remainder of the luggage. Mary took charge of this and drove off with Fatty, that is, Fredegar Bolger. "Someone must get there and warm the house before you arrive," said Mary. "Well, see you later. The day after tomorrow if you don't go to sleep on the way." Folko went home after lunch, but Pippin remained behind. Frodo was restless and anxious, listening in vain for a sound of Gandalf. He decided to wait until nightfall. After that, if Gandalf wanted him urgently, he would go to Crick Hollow, and might even get there first. For Frodo was going on foot. His plan, for pleasure and a last look at the Shire as much as any other reason, was to walk from Hobbiton to Bucklebury Ferry, taking it fairly easy. "I shall get myself a bit into training, too," he said, looking at himself in a dusty mirror in the half-empty hall. He had not done any strenuous walking for a long time, and the reflection looked rather flabby, he thought.
Oh, tell me about it, Frodo.
After lunch, the Sackville Bagginses, Lobelia, and her sandy-haired son Lotho turned up, much to Frodo's annoyance. Ours at last, said Lobelia as she stepped inside. It was not polite, nor strictly true, for the sale of Bag End did not take effect until midnight. But Lobelia can perhaps be forgiven. She had been obliged to wait about 77 years longer for Bag End than she once hoped, and she was now 100 years old. Anyway, she had come to see that nothing she had paid for had been carried off, and she wanted the keys. It took a long while to satisfy her. She had brought a complete inventory with her and went right through it. In the end, she departed with Lotho and the spare key and the promise that the other key would be left at the Gamgees in Bagshot Row. She snorted and showed plainly that she thought the Gamgees capable of plundering the whole during the night.
Yep.
Frodo did not offer her any tea.
That was kind of insult to not offer tea. That's how we treat our worst enemies around these parts.
He took his own tea with Pippin and Sam Gamgee in the kitchen. It had been officially announced that Sam was coming to Buckland to do for Mr. Frodo and look after his bit of garden. An arrangement that was approved by the gaffer, though it did not console him for the prospect of having Lobelia as a neighbor. Our last meal at Bag End, said Frodo, pushing back his chair. They left the washing up for Lobelia. All right, Lobelia's terrible, but that's a dick move.
It so is. It totally is. But I mean, you might not have done that if she hadn't already pulled a dick move. So it's kind of like a reciprocated dick move.
It's true. A dick move for a dick move leaves the whole world dicks. Let's see. Pippin and Sam strapped up their 3 packs and piled them in the porch. Pippin went out for a last stroll in the garden. Sam disappeared.
Dun dun dun.
The sun went down. Bag End seemed sad and gloomy and disheveled. Frodo wandered round the familiar rooms and saw the light of the sunset fade on the walls and shadows creep out of the corners. It grew slowly dark indoors. He went out and walked down to the gate at the bottom of the path, and then on a short way down the hill road. He half expected to see Gandalf come striding up through the dusk. The sky was clear, and the stars were growing bright. It's going to be a fine night, he said aloud. That's good for a beginning. I feel like walking. I can't bear any more hanging about. I am going to start, and Gandalf must follow me. He turned to go back, then stopped, for he heard voices just round the corner by the end of Bagshot Row. One voice was certainly the old gaffer's. The other was strange and somehow unpleasant. He could not make out what it said, but he heard the gaffer's answers, which were rather shrill. The old man seemed to put out. No, Mr. Baggins has gone away. Went this morning, and my Sam went with him. Anyway, all his stuff went. Yes, sold out and gone, I tell 'ee. Why? Why, it's none of my business or yours. Where to? Well, that ain't no secret. He's moved to Bucklebury or some such place away down yonder. Yes, it is, a tidy way. I've never been so far myself. They're queer folks in Buckland. No, I can't give no message. Good night to you. Footsteps went away down the hill. Frodo wondered vaguely why the fact that they did not come on up the hill seemed a great relief. I am sick of questions and curiosity about my doings, I suppose, he thought. What an inquisitive lot they all are. He had half a mind to go and ask the gaffer who the inquirer was, but he thought better, or worse, of it, and turned and walked quickly back to Bag End. Pippin was sitting on his pack in the porch. Sam was not there. Frodo stepped inside the dark door. Sam, he called. Sam, time. Coming, sir, came the answer from far within, followed soon by Sam himself wiping his mouth. He had been saying farewell to the beer barrel in the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
All aboard, Sam? Said Frodo. Yes, sir.
Next time Lobelia has beer, she'll be drinking Sam spit.
Gross.
Right?
Yes, sir. I'll last for a bit now, sir. Frodo shut and locked the round door and gave the key to Sam. Run down with this to your home, Sam, he said, then cut along the row and meet us as quick as you can at the gate in the lane beyond the meadows. We are not going through the village tonight. Too many ears pricking and eyes prying.
And the other way around.
Sam ran off at full speed. Well, now we're off at last, said Frodo. They shouldered their packs and took up their sticks and walked round the corner to the west side of Bag End. Goodbye, said Frodo, looking at the dark blank windows. He waved his hand and then turned and, following Bilbo if he had known it, hurried after Peregrine down the garden path. They jumped over the low place in the hedge at the bottom and took to the fields, passing into the darkness like a rustle in the grasses. I feel like that's a good place to stop for today. We're at 55 minutes.
I think that's absolutely excellent. Yes. Have I even been in frame? I keep moving my paper around.
You have. I've been watching.
Cool.
It's looking nice. Are the designs going to look like they're kind of carved into the hawk?
I'm not sure. I'm sort of spitballing here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, Norse hawk is what I have to go with, and this makes him look riveted. So we're going to do something a little different with that.
Yeah, it does a bit.
Right? I mean, next time I am asked to do a hawk that looks like it's made of metal, I'll remember how nice that looked and use it. But not this time. I'm used to Celtic, but I'm not used to Norse, so the vocabulary of the imagery is a little outside of my ken.
I mean, they're pretty closely related, though, huh?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the Viking iconography and stuff is very heavily Celtic or vice versa, depending on how you look at that.
Right. And since all of that's a chunk of history that didn't necessarily get written about or at least doesn't get taught.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, we'll just make him look iconic somehow. That's the plan.
That's a good plan.
And I think he's going to be in color, but I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Rick. Did he show up? We saw no comments today.
No comments. There was somebody watching for a while. I don't know who it was.
Well then. Thank you for reading.
Yeah. No problemo.
So, how are we for tomorrow?
Tomorrow sounds good. Saturday, I have plans for a Skype happy hour. So let's plan on tomorrow, but not Saturday.
Excellent. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll do some reading and you'll do some knitting.
Sounds like a plan.
Sweet. I love you.
Love you too.
Cuidado.
Te amas.